Hello friends and adventurers. Today we are going to talk about how to build a player role. Now, I had an episode earlier, how to recognize and respond to player role, because it's not good to treat your player as a generic adventurer with no gender, race, name, whatever, description, purpose, lifestyle, or face. They should have a player role. So, I'm M, and welcome to the DM table. So what should the player know? And what should the player tell you? Because how to build a player role is to ask the player about the player role and explain it to them. Because I noticed sometimes the player didn't think about the player role. And even if the DM listens to my advice and tries to recognize and respond to player role, sometimes player hasn't thought about presenting their role. And the best solution I would think in either case, whether the player has a role in mind or not, is to ask the player before the campaign in detail what is their player role, because then you'll be able to customize the campaign to utmost heights for this player's character. So, player role in this case is what does the player think and want, what does the player want to be recognized as? What is their vocation? What do they do for the world that people recognize? What do they look like? How do they look like to other people, to NPCs? How do they present themselves? What reactions does the player expect? Because whilst good role-playing leads to this, it's easier for both the player and the DM if the player ahead of time gives you the character concept that is detailed enough to have a response. What is the appearance of this character? How pretty or not pretty and to whom does this character appear? How do they appear in other ways? Are they mysterious? Are they plain? Are they friendly? Are they open? Are they a loner-like person? Are they old, young? How personable are they to whom? Who do they appeal to and why? Why do they do things that they do? What do they expect in return? What kind of world do they expect and what kind of world recognition? This is what the player role consists of and more. What do they expect from their friends? What do they expect from relationships? How do they expect to project this? How do they expect to achieve this? What do they do to make their intentions known and how do they perform it? Are they smooth in it or awkward, and how much of it do they want to carry over? Because there's a difference between the player and the player character, and you want to carry over the proper volume of the character, shall we say. Whether there is a difference between player being a bit awkward but the character needing to be very smooth, or the other way around, or anything really. Else, you want to perfect the response to the player role from your world. So that's why we ask the player for all of this. And if the player doesn't know yet, well, let's talk about it. Let's spend time talking together as friends about what is this character goal of character building. What is the campaign supposed to be for this player? What do they like? What do they want? What do they find fun? Why do they want it? What do they want to play? Why do they want to play it? What are the goals? What are the expectations? What is the fun? Where do they find it? And even later goals. If the player does have all this, you can ask them for later goals so that you know about the character growth that you both should perform throughout, because they want to do the character growth, but you want to help and you want to respond. Even more importantly, perhaps, you want the character growth to be visible, to be felt, to be seen, to be rewarded, to be responded to. And if the player doesn't have all these ideas yet, well, we can start from the first ones and the later growth can be acquired along the way. And even that growth will be modified, I'm sure, along the way, but at least even if it will, you'll have the basis that you have asked about so that you know how much things are deviating. Is this very good or is this not that good, and how to help repair it a bit. Of course, usually it will be very good, and the player will be amazed how much, even more than what they requested, has been fulfilled. But during all this, you want to negotiate gently. Sometimes the player might have something in mind that doesn't quite fit, but you don't want to tell them just outright no. You want to sort of help them tell you how to yes. You want to help them help you mold everything into the world without any issue in the end. You want to help them play what they like without them having a hard time doing it in the end due to mismatches with the world. And this is only if it really comes up, because frequently you'll be running the campaign the kind that the player wants to play in, so their character concept will fit. But if there is a crucial key difference, then helping each other to help everything along is the great thing that should be done. And if something needs to be said no to, try to not look down on the player for it. Just try to remember, this is where their enthusiasm lies. This is what they really wanted. And you want to encourage players to tell you honestly what is it that they really want above all, because that's what you want to provide. And if something clashes so hard, you don't want to loom over the player and look down on their tastes, because this is where their core enthusiasm for everything lies, even in this small detail that you dislike yourself. So try to share enthusiasm, even help the player not use the full initial concept, but rather to use a modified but just as happy and as playable a concept as you wanted to have for your campaign and they wanted to have for themselves to play. However, if you have a really uncooperative player that just doesn't care about any nice things whatsoever, then maybe it's time to look for another player. But if the player is genuinely sincere that they want to play something that they perceive would be nice, just try to negotiate with them gently to get everything fitted, yet not damage anybody's concept. This is doable in most cases, as long as people do like and do respect each other. So, do try to hold the world to a standard, so that you can help the player channel their enthusiasm properly without ending in the second-rate or even third-rate fanfiction territory that you both really do not want when you later look back on it. And that's all there is to that part. Just negotiate respectfully and kindly and with good and nice intentions, and you will guide yourself to the success of this mission as it becomes easier. And if it's something that you cannot DM properly because you have lack of experience or lack of desire, you can still enthusiastically tell the player that this is something that you just don't have the skill or really focus to run. Just you can even, tell them that you're sorry, but you don't have the potential to run this sort of thing, but you still should reassure the player that this is something that you haven't been getting to practice to run yet, or at all. It's just that sort of situation, nothing malicious from your side. Maybe if they could find something that you can run, you would be very happy to run it for them. That's my approach. Even when I'm somewhat faced with adversity, well, that's the stance I would take, as long as the player doesn't take a worse stance against me. I'd be fine. So that's how I would go about it. Maybe it's not perfect, and there's some modifiers for some other situations, but this is my initial advice. Take it as you will. I just wish you luck on your adventures as usual. So, once you have gathered the character concept, once you have understood the player role in the campaign, once you have understood the player role, more importantly, in their own eyes, because this is how they want to project themselves to the world, now you know how to run. So remember, expand, reference, build on, and meet the conditions. Do more, do further, improve, do better, but keep to the core source of your inspiration that the player gave you. And this is how we together, DM and the player, build a player role. with a beginner player or even an advanced one, because, as I said, bringing attention to player role from the player, him or herself, at the beginning before everything starts, is one of the keys to a successful campaign, I would think, because then you both know what your task is. Player knows what to play, you know what to DM, and everybody is very happy with the results. So thank you, friends and adventurers, for listening to me, and if you thought this was unique, maybe you can spare me a click and I could see you here next or even every week, because I do have an episode every week, and would love to see you there in the comments with your questions and advice for me, or just some talk, because that's lovely and I would love to talk to you all. So write when you want to, and I'll see you next time. Bye.